mean?
Now, you mentioned 60% PTSD. Do you mind? Do you do counseling with the VA for that, if I may ask?
I got some issues, but I do have a counselor, a mental health doctor that I'm talking to once every 2-3 months. But of course, the last couple of months it's been by by video phone. And every time I talk about my situation, all they do is increase my medicine. Increase my dosage. I'm already taking 33 different pills. And,
Right.
Y'all, you know how it is, man. We think some days are good, some days are bad.
What kind of depression or what kind of hole can someone with PTSD go into if they're not getting counseling? How important counseling was to you?
Well, I know in my case, I don't know about the brother, but I was able to go through VA Choice, and so I have an outside counselor.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
One of the hard things for me was, as my counselor on the outside, who's a private practice, not a VA doctor, they're just their own practice as a psychologist. One of the things that we started toward the end of as my counseling got better was to wean me off medication. Wow. And brother, that was probably the hardest thing that I ever had to do, was get through the counseling and they say, so you don't need the medication to cope anymore. So they started weaning you off. And there were some obvious physical effects. Took me a good 2 years to wean off all the medication I was on. Yeah. Because, you try to, you think you hard, right? We all tough military guys. I'm just gonna stop taking this medication. I'll be fine tomorrow. And then you miss 2 or 3 doses and you're like, dude, I can't deal with this. I mean, it puts you physically in a bad way. So I have a friend of mine. He couldn't join because he told me he's not feeling not well tonight. He's up in Denton.
Right.
He's a PTSD sufferer. And, right now he's not getting any counseling. And, it's like a 2-prong of attack. You need the counseling and the medication. The medication is not a panacea for everything. You got to have both sides of this, equation that's leveling out to keep you balanced. And so these guys have been doing, I know he was doing group sessions up in Denton. And he says right now, because of COVID, they're not having any sessions whatsoever.
A lot of the homeless guys that are on the street are former veterans, and they're not getting their mental health needs met. And so that this causes even more of a situation, especially if they have any type of contact with police officers.
Yeah, they end up in the legal system when they shouldn't be.
Yeah. Brother Woodson, you were saying that, so you don't have a private doctor like him, so it's a little bit more difficult for you?
No, I don't have a private doctor, but well, I do. I have a mental health doctor that I see on a regular, and he moderates all my mental health medicine. And he's pretty good. He's really, really good. I make all my calls with him, and I haven't been in to see him lately, because of, they've been doing the video conference, But I got 2 nephews, man, that live over in Irving, man, and they're former veteran, and they catching it bad right now. They're young, like in their 30s, man, and they catching it bad. No help at all, ex-veterans,
Let's just pray for all of those guys out there, all our military veterans that are not getting their needs met right now. I'm sure they can call, regular crisis hotlines, or is there a crisis hotline for Army veterans?
Yeah, the VA has one, yeah.
Hey, I've called that number several times, way back when, like in the last couple of years, and they kind of like got me through, but they did me a disservice one time, when they had the police bomb rush me at my house because they thought I was suicidal,
Yeah, and that's the last thing you need is the police coming to your house. When that's not the solution. It's to send the police. That's the last thing. As black men, we don't want the police at our house for no reason.
Right.
All of them do, you gonna tase me or you take a pick. And they like, you think this is a joke? You're joking, huh? I said, that's what y'all do. Y'all tasers, y'all, I got a phobia, So, that's my take. Like you say, but the last thing we want is the police to come bomb rushes,
I know Fort Worth has certain police they send for mental health calls that are trained to deal with mental health people. But not
you said they have a task force. They have a task force.
But not
Right.
every police department has that when they actually
Right.
should. And the last thing you want is some authoritarian armed person trying to tell you how you feel when they have no idea how you feel.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
You did get COVID.
Yeah.
Early
Oh,
on.
yeah. Oh,
You want to
no,
give us
man.
tell us a little bit about that.
I was exposed by somebody else, but at the time I started getting sick, I didn't know that. And so I went through 5 or 6 days of high fever, chills, body aches, to tell me that I had been exposed. And then that was probably that was
Oh
going
my
into
God.
day 7. And then once I got into the hospital, I spent another 7 days in the hospital on antibiotics and antivirals. Even though they dismissed me, they still sent me home with 13 different medications. You get out of the hospital, first thing I need to tell you in the VA, if you go to the hospital, next step you get out is come see us at the VA. And at first they were telling me that I needed to go out to a CVS or Walgreens and get them filled. I called already, and I was looking at between $600 and $700 to pay for these medications because there's some issues with the thing with the COVID is it's really not the virus that kills you; it's the stuff that it brings along that makes people die. Either the respiratory stuff or kidney failure or a myriad of other things, or pneumonia. Pneumonia is one of the leading causes for people with COVID.
Hey, some of the other.
I had no sense of taste, no sense of smell. My body aches was like going 15 rounds of Mike Tyson. I mean,
The old Mike Tyson.
Oh my God.
Brother Woodson, you want to go Sergeant Wilson or what? How can we go? Or Dr. Wilson with all your education? You might be Dr. Wilson.
Just call me a man without a job, man. I'm like Tommy from Martin, man, okay?
We'll call you Rambo because that was his whole thing. He said, when I was in the military, I dealt with $1 million machines. I had the highest security clearance in the world. And out here, I'm just nothing. I'm just nothing. How has the COVID affected you thus far?
Man, you know what, man? I'm so glad you asked that because I was in New Orleans for Mardi Gras, okay?
Oh.
And yeah. And that's my home. And I went down there Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, but I came back that Monday before all of the hoopla. But the guys whose house I was by, they had this big event, about 200-300 people. He showed me a picture of him 3 days later in a hospital with the COVID symptoms, and he looked bad. But they kept him. I mean, he was healthy, looking good, cooking big old pigs on the grill. And 3 days later, he was in a hospital, looking bad, man. But he stayed in there for about a week, and they sent him home. But I had an anxiety feeling, man, that I was down there and all of that, the crowd, the hoopla. And I came back, man, I couldn't hardly sleep for about a week, man, thinking like, okay, do I have a dry cough yet? Okay, am I aching? Do I have a fever? I went out and bought 2 thermometers in case one broke, the other one wasn't working,
Right.
But I was serious, man. I had serious anxiety because I was around all of those people, and especially my buddy who got it, but he's doing better now. It took him about almost 2 weeks to get better when he got discharged. He still was sounding bad. So that's how it affected me. And I'm here at the house with the family and the kids, trying to maintain, and do the best I can,
Yeah. Speaking of which, so those, you said, the friend of yours, he looked really bad. So what I'm finding is a lot of these deaths are taking place in these nursing homes. We just had a nursing home here recently that had over 40 veterans who died in Massachusetts. That's the Yoki Veterans Home, and they're being investigated right now. Over 40 veterans died in this nursing home.
You had another one today. They had 17.
Wow.
They got an anonymous tip, and they went in to investigate. And they found 17 passed away today.
And who is giving their honors? How are they getting their honors? Is there a military funeral? Is there a flag on the casket? Or these bodies are just being disposed of? I mean, what? Have you heard anything, or what do you think?
I know in New York, they're doing, they're giving people either 24 or 48 hours to claim a body. And after that, they're going into mass graves.
I've seen that. Yeah.
I'm not sure how they're doing it in other places, but New York is that's an extreme place. They have so many people. They're given a very short time for the families to claim. And another problem is a lot of these funeral homes will not accept these bodies that have been infected with COVID.
What?
Because they've actually had transmission from a deceased person to a live technician in a funeral home. So some funeral homes are just saying, sorry, we ain't taking these people. The honors are great and everything, but I wouldn't want to put anybody at risk to pass this on from me to somebody else I have no idea who they are. They're just doing their job, right?
Just to get honors.
Just to get honors, yeah.
I have another thing that I wanted to bring up to you guys. Neither one of us are Navy. I reached out to my son. He was actually in the Navy for 8 years, but he was on the Theodore Roosevelt. So my wife and I have actually been on the Theodore Roosevelt.
Well, you have to realize, I've been shipboard. I was on the America on a cruise. You have to realize on a ship, you do something called hot racking. Okay? So the area where you sleep, you actually share with either one or another person. You don't share the same linen, but you share the same space. So when you're at work, somebody is sleeping in that space. And literally you get off and you go in, they take their linen off and they go to work and you sit. And the quarters on shipboard are so cramped. Even the workspaces are cramped. There is no place to go beside the flight deck to get any, every now and then we have what we call still beach, where they park the plane, you go diving in the water and do all that stuff. But there's nowhere to go. And the way the air systems work is the air gets circulated throughout the ship. So even if you did quarantine in a separate part of the ship, there's no way to give that part of the ship different air that is circulating everywhere else. So
that's amazing.
There is no social distance. There's no such thing as social distancing on a ship. Even one is, now think about that on an aircraft carrier. Think about the smaller ships.
Right.
And aircraft carriers have tons of room. I think it was a travesty for the commanding officer to get relieved when all he was trying to do was protect his people.
Right.
And
go ahead.
Did you hear that they said they might be trying to reinstate him back?
Yeah, I heard that, and he said really he didn't even want to come back.
Yeah.
If I were him, he has nothing to gain by coming back, because all they're going to do under the Trump administration is try to find something else. So he can ride off into glory right now and be a hero.
Right.
The thing he did, and you can't fault him for this. Your people is your number one mission, and their welfare. As a commanding officer or the senior staff NCO, you take care of your people at all costs. Because if your people are not effective, then you are not effective.
The Trump administration, they're using all of this to, like he's doing some type of campaign. For instance, they held up the U.S. Treasury checks from being mailed out because he wanted his name put on it. Every piece of legal tender I've ever seen since I've been living always had the U.S. Treasury signature on it.
Yeah, right.
Not the president's.
Exactly.
Man.
Wait. I work for the IRS, and okay, this is way back when. And what happened is that when the individual, y'all might know this, or the IRS, instead of writing the check to IRS, because IRS could be spelled as IRIS, Iris, they write the check to the U.S. Treasury, Department of Treasury, right?
Right.
So if the individual or the IRS, who do they write the check back to? Donald Trump? See, you better watch that.
Right. He gonna get a refund. I tell you, man.
And then I want to hone in on is that when you get a chance, think about the issue about all the prisoners that are in jail and they can't get released, and they're passing it all around in the federal prison in some part in Louisiana, northern Louisiana. Half the staff got it, corona, and the other half of the prisoners got it, and they have nowhere to go. They're not releasing none of them, man.
Yeah. But and then I got a cousin Willie that I owe some money to, and they keep him for a little.
Look, I got a couple of them in there. They get out, they coming to see me to borrow some money.
No, but I won't say this on a serious note. If you look at the countries that are doing well, people are listening to what they've been told. They're social distancing, they're staying at home. But also, if you look at those countries, they've also done a lot more for the people that have to stay at home. Look at our neighbor to the north. You know, they're not getting one check. They're getting $2,000 a month until.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but they're also not out in parks and churches and doing all the stuff that we're doing, because you know, Americans like, you can't take my freedom. I got the right to be stupid and do stupid stuff. And I will fight and die for that right to be stupid, do stupid stuff. And that's what's going to happen. Yeah, I understand. You know, do we take another month of pain to shut this down completely, or do we want to open it back up and get another 15, 16,000 people killed because we want to be open and free?
Well, let me say this. That's no different than the same people that make decisions to start these senseless wars. And how many lives are you going to sacrifice over the price of gas? Literally. How many lives are you going to sacrifice to find weapons of mass destruction that we never find, you know? And so it's the same thing here. How many lives are the Trump administration willing to sacrifice, especially now since 80%, supposedly 80% of the cases are African-American. So they really gonna open it up now.
Oh, you know he'll sacrifice all us.
right. He'll sacrifice all of us. Hey, you guys, I really thank you guys for being on. You know, this Facebook, we can talk all night, but you know, they don't want to listen to no old former veterans give war stories and everything, man. But
I appreciate both you brothers, man. I appreciate both of y'all a lot, man.
Thank you for having me on, man, because you know, this is stuff that's, you know, people need to hear about from our point of view. And you know, it's good information to share, because everybody doesn't know everything, and you always can learn something from somebody else. And y'all, and I thank you for doing the stuff you do for the community with the Black Cross and everything else you do, brother. I really do appreciate it.
Amen.
Well, I would have killed you if you had died without me knowing it. All right. Hey, God bless you guys, and maybe we'll do it again next week. Okay.